The consumer market in Saudi Arabia is absolutely booming. It's this massive opportunity for brands in food, cosmetics, medical tech, you name it. But to get a piece of that action, you first have to go through one single crucial gateway, the Saudi Food and Drug Authority, or SFDA. And as we're about to find out, your entire success in that market really hinges on the very first decision you make in their process. So let's just get one thing straight right from the get-go. The stakes here are incredibly high. This isn't just about some paperwork. Getting your product classification wrong doesn't just mean delays. It can literally torpedo your entire submission. This one step, this single decision, is the foundation of your entire market strategy. Okay, so how do we make sure that doesn't happen to you? Well, here's our game plan. First, we're going to get to know the SFDA and its role as the ultimate gatekeeper. Then, we'll dive into the biggest classification puzzle out there. Is your product a cosmetic or a medical device? After that, we'll walk step by step through the digital submission process, figure out the rules for those really complex products, and finally, wrap it all up into a clear strategy for your success. All right, first things first, let's get to know the gatekeeper. The SFDA is the central authority, and they oversee everything, from food supplements all the way to advanced medical technology. Their main job, their core mission, is to ensure every single product that reaches a Saudi consumer is safe. That makes them the absolute first and last word on whether you get access to the market. And this is really the key takeaway here. Before you even start thinking about your packaging, your marketing, or your shipping logistics, you've got to answer one simple question. What is your product in the eyes of the SFDA? That classification determines every single thing that comes next, the documents you'll need, the fees you'll pay, and the exact standards you have to meet. So you can see here the main lanes your product can be steered into. It's going to be channeled into one of these core SFDA sectors, like cosmetic, medical device, drug, or food. Now, each one has its own detailed rulebook, but for a lot of international brands, the biggest gray area, the one that causes the most confusion, often falls between two specific categories. And that gray area? It brings us right to the biggest, most common headache for so many brands. Is my product a cosmetic, or is it a medical device? This is exactly where the FDA's logic gets incredibly precise. And honestly, it's where a lot of companies make their first big mistake. It all boils down to one thing, the product's primary mode of action. A cosmetic, over here on the left, works on the surface of the body to, clean, beautify, or change your appearance. But a medical device, on the right, has a real therapeutic purpose and gets its job done physically. The SFDA is basically asking two questions. First, what does your product do? And second, how does it do it? And wow, do the details matter here. A simple face wash with 2% salicylic acid, that's probably a cosmetic. But go any higher than that and bam, it's classified as a drug. The same idea applies to things like AHAs and urea. And it's especially true for retinol, where they're bringing in new, really strict limits. A tiny change in your formula can completely flip its regulatory identity. Okay, let's zoom in on that medical device definition for a sec. The key phrase you have to remember is physical or mechanical means. The SFDA wants to know if your product works by creating a barrier, or by applying pressure, or by physically changing something. If its main effect comes from a chemical reaction inside the body, it's almost certainly a drug. This idea, it's pretty much the foundation of their whole system. Now, once you're in the medical device bucket, things get sorted again, this time by risk. Class A devices, like bandages, they have a pretty straightforward path to market. But as you climb that ladder to Class D, we're talking about things like pacemakers, the regulatory hurdles get much, much higher. That means more clinical data, way more scrutiny, and, you guessed it, significantly higher fees. Okay, so that's the theory. But how you actually do this? How do you get that official ruling? Well, the good news is the SFDA has really streamlined this with a digital platform they call the E-Product Classification System, or EPCS. It's designed to be super efficient, so let's check out how it works. And honestly, the workflow is surprisingly simple. First, your company, or more likely your local representative in Saudi Arabia, gets registered on the GHAD portal. From there, you just submit the application online, you pay the fees through their national payment system, and then you get the official classification sent to you electronically. And check this out. This is maybe the best part. The efficiency. The SFDA's target for getting you a decision is just 1 working day. Now, that's not just fast, it's a huge strategic advantage. It lets you get a final, definitive answer before you spend months and a ton of money preparing the wrong technical file. So you get that decision, and it's good for a whole year, which gives you a nice, clear window to finish your full registration. But what if you don't agree with their call? The system gives you a 30-day window to appeal. This is your shot to provide more scientific proof or maybe show precedents from other countries to argue your case. Right? But we all know not every product fits perfectly into one little box, do they? What do you do with products that seem to blend different categories? This is where we get into borderline and combination products, and believe me, they can be a real challenge. A combination product is, well, it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's a product that mixes components from different regulatory worlds. So think of a drug-eluting stent that's both a physical device and a drug delivery system. Or even a first aid kit, which packages devices like bandages together with drugs like antiseptic wipes. So to sort out these tricky products, the SFDA has this really smart rule called the leading sector principle. It's a simple but powerful idea. They figure out the product's single primary mode of action. Take the drug-eluting stent. Its main job is to physically open an artery. That's a device function, so the medical device sector is in charge. For an insulin pen, the main job is delivering the drug. That's pharmacological, so the drug sector leads. This logic gives every product a clear regulatory home, no matter how complex it is. Okay, let's bring this all home. How can you take all this information and build a winning strategy? How do you navigate this whole system to make sure you have a smooth, successful entry into the Saudi market?
Let's boil this all down to some simple, practical do's and don'ts. First big one, do not assume. Just because your product is classified one way in Europe or the US, don't assume it's the same in Saudi Arabia. Their rules are their rules. Second, do your homework early. Use that fast EPCS system to get an official ruling before you sink a ton of resources into your submission. And finally, do be consistent. Your marketing claims have to perfectly match your official classification. You can't have a product classified as a cosmetic claiming it can cure a medical condition.
And that really brings us to the final big idea here. It's so easy to look at product classification as just another piece of regulatory red tape you have to get through. But as we've seen, it is so much more than that. It sets your budget, your timeline, your paperwork, and even your marketing. So the question I'll leave you with is this. Are you treating it like a box you have to check, or are you treating it like the strategic cornerstone it really is?